Commissioner Montesino? The vice chair is not here yet, so can you please start the meeting from your remote location? Thank you.
Yes, let me just get the agenda in front of me. Hold on. Can you hear me? So let's go to, can I get a roll call? Good morning, everyone.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Newsom? Commissioner Clark?
Present.
Commissioner Montesino?
Here.
Commissioner Alternate Schifrin? Here. Commissioner DeSerpa?
Present.
Commissioner Koenig?
Here.
Commissioner Martinez? Here. Commissioner Downing?
Here.
Commissioner Quiroz Carter? She'll be joining soon. And Commissioner Rodkin, I believe, is not going to be joining us today, and Commissioner Ryder.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. I also had a message from Council Member Commissioner Vanessa Quiroz Carter that she's out sick, so she's not going to join us.
Thank you.
So, do we have any considerations of AB 2449? Just cause.
We do have Commissioner Montesino joining us remotely. He will be at 628 Crown Road. 253 Morero, Leon, Plan, Guanajuato, Irapuato, Guanajuato, if anybody wants to join. That's in Mexico.
Thank you for that. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We did post several pages on the RTC website. We have an update to the agenda. We have a staff report for item 16, replacement pages for items 6 and 14, an add-on page for item 14, and handouts for items 28 and 30.
All right. Thank you for that. And now it's on to oral communications from the public. This is the time for an opportunity for the public to weigh on items not in the agenda. So do we have anybody?
There we go. Good morning again. My name is Stephen Woodside. My great-grandparents came to this part of the world via train back in the 1800s. I've been a train advocate all my professional life. I've been a lawyer, I was county counsel in Santa Clara, then again in Sonoma, and finally in Marin after I'd happily retired. In all three cases, I spent a lot of time working on exactly the kind of problems that you face. And before I say anything more substantively, I just want to thank you for your service, because it's a tough job, and you're going to get a lot of slings and arrows thrown at you. I'm not here to throw slings and arrows. I'm an advocate for trains, truly am. But I think there's a reality now that we have to face, having to do with the high cost and the vulnerability of this particular line, at least portions of it. In particular, right behind you, you can't see it, of course, the trestle. And I really hope we don't have to fight over rail versus trail. Is my time up? Okay. Please try to cooperate as much as you can to find a solution to the problems that we face. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Can I get who's next?
Good morning. Are we giving 1 minute or 2?
1 minute.
1 minute. I had something else to say. So I'm just going to say that I started attending RGC meetings in 2018. At that time, 3 minutes was the norm. There was one meeting that had a lot of public interest, and over 80 people stood up to speak, and we were allowed 2 minutes at that time. The city council here allows their citizens 3 minutes. City council in Watsonville allows 2 minutes. I hope that you'll go back to the 2 minutes or 3 minutes, because there's really very little that can be communicated. So I'll be reaching out to each of you individually, because I have something to say. And thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Leslie Nielsen. In the spirit of 1 minute, I'll change my script as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak and for the work that you do. We had a staff report on February 13th here in Capitola about the Park Avenue Rail Trail, and the staff report left you with more questions than answers. We were then able to get some public records from somebody in the community who had garnered those and learned that there was a pretty thorough email from Rod Tidmore to many people, including 2 members of Capitola's staff, indicating the reason for the alignment had a lot more to do with the passing lane required than it did anything else. And that was never disclosed. And just as someone who's not train or trail, just a moderate person who wants to help the taxpayers with their money, that was just disheartening to find out the transparency wasn't there about that issue. So in some ways, I think California or Capitola saved your grant money by the decision they made recently, given that was going to be all about the train at that point, and the grant for $67 million was for active transportation of bikes and pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Thomas here. I read last year in the draft EIR that the Capitola Trestle was not subject to rail banking. I went back this Tuesday to find the quote and discovered the revised EIR does not mention it at all. But the letter from the Coastal Commission in volume 4, their page 4, says, we recommend that the DEIR clearly describe the term rail banking as it is used here, including the various scenarios that may trigger future trail relocation rebuilding to accommodate future rail transit use. I also listened to the last month's RTC meeting, and one board member specifically told staff to come back with a full description and explanation of rail banking for members and the public to understand it better. And I'd like to know, when will that explanation be forthcoming? It's a vital piece of information, especially concerning the trestle. I'd also like you to ask Caltrans to put closed signs on the Park Avenue off-ramp signs, because it's slowing the traffic down and it's dangerous.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, TJ Welch. Follow up on Leslie's identifying that the real reason of the rail trail wasn't for safety or any other reasons. It's really for widening the entire right-of-way for a passing lane. So the misinformation deceit really is unacceptable presented to the public. We ask that you consider placing the bike pedestrian path on the rail bed like you're doing from Thompson to 47th. The money saved would pay for replacing the trestle or repairing the trestle and allow a contiguous path. And we can worry about the rail trail issues when you get money for a train. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jacques Bertrand. I was on this commission for 6 years, and I appreciated the comments and such from the public, and I hope you appreciate ours, and thanks for your service. When I was a young kid, I hitchhiked on trains with my uncles in tow, making sure I didn't fall off. This is a fact that went on for many years, and into my 30s, I did the same thing. I love trains. RTC has an issue here, and that's how to do it in Santa Cruz. We wanted D in Capitola. That was our message. I think you've run up against a barrier here. How do you do this respecting the communities that you're putting this trail in? It's not just where the traffic goes, it's also the finances. You have 2 major barriers. The biggest that everyone's starting to realize is finances. Do it the way citizens of Santa Cruz wanted you to do it. That was Measure D. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Brian Peoples Trail now. You know, I've been coming to this for over 15 years. And I just want to reiterate what Johanna came up here and said, and it's disrespectful to the public to have a 1-minute public comment. I just don't know how that came about. Maybe it's the chair's MO that he wants to repress comments. So I'm really emphasizing you need to at least give 2 minutes. And then secondly, it's been over a decade that corridor has sat unused. And look at the traffic mess. The coastal corridor is equivalent to a single highway lane when you talk about the capacity of it. You have SoCal, you have Highway 1. A single highway lane is 2,000 people an hour. When we open that corridor up, when you look at it from a systems engineering perspective, it adds a lot of value to the overall transportation system. So open it up.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair Montesino and Commissioners. My name is Matt Farrell, and I'm here today to apologize to elected officials and commissioners who've been subject to a lot of personal attacks and disrespect in the last month. I think it's really unfortunate that in a community like ours, people are reflecting the type of behavior that we find so distasteful at the national level. And I hope that we will return to an amount of civility where we don't make these personal attacks on people who are just trying to do their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jim Helmer, Ben Lomond. I just wanted to remind all of you that last week, Caltrans distributed their new manual for setting speed limits, which does include Assembly Bill 43, which allows 25 miles per hour in business districts on conventional highways. It reiterates they are enforceable. A year ago tomorrow, in this very chambers, we asked Caltrans to reduce speed limits on Highway 9. They've completed their work under their old policy and released this the week after their reporting out last week. They also did a survey on Highway 17. How much time is there? They're recommending to raise the speed limit between Paso Tiempo and the Ocean Street exit from 55 to 60. Weaving, merging, exiting, traffic signal ahead. I can't understand. 11 years for the city of Santa Cruz trying to make that stretch safer. We're proposing to raise it for 14 years.
Thank you very much.
14 years.
Lowell Hurst.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Thank you for your service. I'm not there in person today, but I will give you the traffic report. I'm going to give you the traffic report from yesterday. I was southbound on Highway 1, and it worked pretty smooth until you got to around Morrissey, and then it was completely backed up all the way to Freedom Boulevard. So it took about an hour to go 12 miles or so. Progress is being made, improvements are being done. There is construction that sometimes slows traffic, but we're on the right track. We just need to move a little faster on that. In regards to Capitola, if they really don't want the funding for the Park Avenue, let's use that money southward in the urbanized areas of Watsonville, and let's get a bike and trail that actually will work for people there. And lastly, regarding rail banking, there is a former staff report that people can read, and it fully explains rail banking. And so let's make that report, that former report, available to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
David loves public transit.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. In the realm of fraud, we often joke about buying or selling a bridge as a shorthand for a scam so ridiculous that surely nobody could fall for it. Well, the fine city of Capitola has raised the stakes with their version of the bridge scam. I'm going to poke myself with a sharp stick until you give me a bridge. Points for creativity, right? At that city council meeting, you know the one, there was a lot of performative confusion about, we can't understand the intent of Greenway Measure L, it is vague. Look, it's okay to say what the intent is. We all know it. Let's get used to just saying it. Supporters too. The intent of Greenway Capitola Measure L is to coerce, that means bully, to coerce the RTC to remove their train tracks, while Capitola pokes itself with a sharp stick. I hope you'll reach out to Capitola and suggest they kick in the $13 million shortfall that their preferred trail costs. And I do wonder if nullifying Greenway Measure L would cost less than the $13 million shortfall. That might be some good value engineering. One more thing, in case it's not obvious, the Blue Dot Mob will be using the Castle Mobile Home Park residents as human property shields in their next round of obstruction, rather than trying to help them, their fellow Capitola citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
Thank you. So we'll go back to our agenda. Let me. With that, we're going to go on to our consent agenda. Any questions from commissioners?
Yes.
Consent agenda?
This is Andy Schifrin. I would like to pull items 15 and 16, which are the labor agreements, and put them after the closed session so we can talk about them in closed session before formally approving them.
Okay. Duly noted that request, so we'll put those off. Any other areas or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, anybody from the public would like to weigh on the consent agenda without 15 and 16?
Is this consent agenda? Consent
Yes.
agenda item number 8. That's Brian Peoples. I think it's number 8 on the graffiti. So I want to remind the board here that City of Santa Cruz is responsible for all that graffiti repair on segment 7B. That was the agreement. I specifically remember Guy Preston pointing that out when the City of Santa Cruz pressed on to build that huge 40-foot wall that's a nightmare now, that's covered with graffiti and, and tearing out all the trees. So I want to make sure that that the RTC and Measure D doesn't pay for that graffiti and maintenance on segment 7B. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on consent agenda? Anybody else online?
We do not have any speakers online.
Move the consent agenda as amended.
So it's been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
So it's been moved in second. It's hard to tell from my perspective.
It was Commissioner Schifrin moved and Commissioner Koenig second.
Do we have to do a roll call, I believe?
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alternate Newsom?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go on to commissioners' report. Any commissioners have any report?
We have none.
Seeing none, we're going to move on to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Montesino. Good morning, everybody. Hold on, let me move this. Okay, thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about planning first, some of our planning that we're doing. We have the Rural Highway Safety Plan community workshops that are coming up. We're kicking off the second round of community outreach for this planning study that seeks to enhance safety for everyone traveling along Santa Cruz County's 6 undivided rural highways, which are Highway 1 north of the city of Santa Cruz, Highways 9, 236 and 35, and Highways 129 and 152 outside of the city of Watsonville. RTC will be hosting 2 upcoming community workshops for community members to review collision trends and safety concerns, learn about potential safety enhancements, and share feedback. I'm going to announce the dates. The first one will be Tuesday, May 20th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at the Felton Community Hall. And then we have a South County workshop on Wednesday, May 21st from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at the Watsonville Civic Plaza Community Room. More information is available on our website. We have a revised ribbon cutting date. We previously announced a save the date for May 14th for the Chanticleer Bicycle and Pedestrian Overcrossing ribbon cutting event. We have decided to push the ribbon cutting back a couple of months to instead hold a celebration for the entire project because the project has been essentially completed ahead of schedule. And we want to invite the community to join us on July 30th. It's a Wednesday in the evening, same time, 5:30, to celebrate the completion of the auxiliary lanes, bus on shoulder facilities project between 41st Avenue and Soquel Drive, which includes the Chanticleer Bicycle and Pedestrian Overcrossing. We know how excited the community is for the overcrossing to open, and we are very, very close to opening it. And we anticipate that the overcrossing will be open for public use prior to this July 30th date. But this is just our celebration to celebrate the completion of this amazing project. A little update on the auxiliary lanes and bus on shoulder improvements. The auxiliary lanes were completed and opened for public use a few weeks ago. The bus on shoulder improvements are still underway, which is the red colored pavement that you see out there while you're driving along the corridor. Staff is working with Metro staff on an implementation plan to begin bus on shoulder operations in 2026. So stay tuned for more information. Moving on to another ribbon cutting. Segment 7 of the Coastal Rail Trail is wrapping up completion of construction. The date for the ribbon cutting will be Wednesday, May 21st. It's going to be in the morning to coordinate with a celebratory trail walk with Bayview Elementary School students and a touch-a-truck event that the city is hosting. So Wednesday, May 21st, 8:30 to 9:30 is when the celebration is going to be happening. This project is a 0.8-mile long paved bicycle and pedestrian path between Bay Street and California Street intersection and the Pacific Avenue Beach Street roundabout right in front of the wharf. It completes a 2.1-mile segment, which is the entire segment 7, of the Coastal Rail Trail spine between Natural Bridges Drive and Pacific Avenue and the municipal wharf. The two-phase trail will connect over 30,000 residents who live within 1 mile of the project to schools, work, beaches, shopping, and other activity centers. So please join us on the 21st to celebrate the opening of this amazing trail. Moving on to an update on the Zero Emission Passenger Rail and Trail project. We have some community workshops coming up. We, as you are all aware, created some working groups, one for South County and one for North County. I want to thank the commissioners who are participating in that. It's been a really valuable process. We're having a workshop in Watsonville on Monday, May 12th at 6 p.m. at the Civic Plaza Community Room. The Watsonville workshop will provide updates on the proposed Walker Street rail and trail alignments and on downtown Watsonville station location options. The second workshop will be in Santa Cruz. That will be on Wednesday, May 14th at 6 p.m. at the London Nelson Community Center. This workshop will include information on the Beach Street rail and trail alignment alternatives, traffic patterns in the Beach Flats neighborhood, and grade crossings along proposed west side alignment. Spanish interpretation will be available at both workshops. More information on these community workshops can be found on the RTC website. Santa Cruz County Bike Fest, which is previously known as Bike Month, starts today. With partial funding from the RTC, Ecology Action's Bike Fest has something for everyone with a month-long bike challenge to walk and roll to school day, community rides, bike repair days, and more. On the morning of Thursday, May 15th is the return of in-person Bike to Work Day, but now we are calling it Bike to Wherever Day, featuring 12 breakfast sites across the county for bicyclists. Community members interested in participating in these activities should visit letsmodo.org, letsmodo.org. Quick Caltrans related thank you. On April 22nd, Caltrans District 5 sent a letter to RTC communicating its intention to move forward with lowering speed limits at several locations on Highway 9 in San Lorenzo Valley, including lowering the speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour through the town of Ben Lomond. Staff appreciates Caltrans' collaboration and attention to this matter to improve safety along San Lorenzo Valley's Main Street, Highway 9. And lastly, I have a staffing announcement. Last month, Tracy New, the RTC's Director of Finance and Budget, has announced her retirement. Tracy's last day will be May 14th. She has been with the RTC since 2019 and has been a vital part of our team. Please join me in appreciating Tracy for her 6 years of dedicated service to the RTC and in congratulating her on her upcoming retirement. And that completes my director's report. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to Caltrans report.
Public comment?
Public comment. So Trail and Brian from Trail Now, I submitted a response about when the RTC and the county staff presented to the city of Capitola on the Park Avenue. We believe that they intentionally misguided the city of Capitola on the deadline submitting grant applications. And that became more apparent when we saw the public information requests, where they specifically said, we want to hold this close to our chest. I don't want to give staff a hard time. They got a hard job. They get banged all over the press. But we cannot have staff come out and not give the true facts to the city council or the RTC board or any boards. They need to be factual. And for them to come and say, we have to do it now, we have to do it now. It was all scare tactics. And the facts were, they did not have to do it. So I want to make sure that we do that. So again, I don't mean to give people a hard time.
Regarding Highway 1 bus on shoulder project, if you do look at these red boxes that do not have any buses in them right now, they contain the abbreviation MST and Metro. For those that don't know what MST is, and I had to look it up, it's Monterey Salinas Transit. They have no buses in Santa Cruz County at this time. I checked their route map. And if we're thinking about starting bus service in those boxes in 2026, I think there's going to be some questions asked.
Thank you.
We have a speaker online. Lowell Hurst.
You know, the transportation in Santa Cruz County needs a lot of improvements. I know everybody's working hard at it, and there are some differences of opinion. We can look at the past and see the horses and buggies and how they struggled up the rutted roads. But we also know that there were thousands of visitors that came to Santa Cruz via rail, lots of freight that moved by rail. And we see the potential for that in the future. Bus traffic is also very important. Yesterday, coming back from Los Gatos, you could see about 17 semis on 17, and there were even more on Highway 1. There's really an opportunity for freight to move in something other than semi-trucks as well. And so I want to thank the RTC for looking at all the alternatives, and let's keep us moving. Thank you.
Kevin? McGuire?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Very confused about the ultimate trail and the ZERT project, especially along Park Avenue. Now that we're building the coastal trail in the corridor, we saw some information on a public request that said the alternative would be to build the rail trail now on the original coastal alignment. And then when ZERT is built, the coastal rail trail will need to be demolished and rebuilt along Park Avenue. This would require 2 rounds of construction, added environmental impacts, and extra cost. I don't believe the public was aware that the ultimate trail really is not an ultimate trail. And the plan is to take out the corridor for a passing lane. So if we can get some clarity and transparency on what it means for the ultimate trail, and is rail the priority over
Thank you.
the trail?
We have no other public comment. You do have a panelist, Ray Cancino.
I think I have Ray.
Correct.
Ray Cancino. Let's raise his hand on my end.
Just a quick public comment on the reporting, and I apologize, yes, because I am a panelist on my way there. But I did want to make a comment about the BRT. We continue as Liftline to raise the opportunity to be more efficient and to provide more rides with that efficiency. Currently, we're not included in the appropriate use of the BRT lane at this time. And since we are the beyond 1/4 mile provider of medical transport TDA funded rides and non-emergency transportation for older adults and disabled adults through our paratransit lift line. It would greatly improve our ability to serve Santa Cruz County by appropriate use of that in the future. So we want the RTC to consider that in future actions.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close it up. Any commissioners have any comments?
Yes, I wanted to make a comment about segment 7, phase 2B. And really just repeat the executive director's invitation to go out and look at it. It is now possible to walk on it. I don't know if you can ride a bike on it, although if they have fences up. But it was actually surprising because there are very high walls there. But because it's open on the other side, it doesn't feel constrained. And it's going to be a really significant connection between Mid-County and the west side. Because now, in order to get through that section, you either have to go up West Cliff or up Laurel or cut through the Neary Lagoon, which is really a problem in terms of disturbing the wildlife. When that connection officially opens and it's already being used by some of us, at least for walking, I think it's going to be a very exciting addition. And while it's been a long time coming, it's really, I'm really happy to see that it's happening. I would say also that the city of Santa Cruz is intending to remove the graffiti before the grand opening. And I appreciate their willingness to do this.
Thank you.
May I please make one clarification? The trail is technically not yet open to the public.
No,
So just a note for the community.
But,
Thank you.
all right. Well, thank you. Go back to my agenda. So now Caltrans report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brandy Ryder, Deputy District Director for Planning and Modal Programs in San Luis Obispo, District 5. And so I just have a couple announcements today. The first one is regarding vegetation control on Highways 236 and 9. So for the last 2 months on some of our rural highways, we've been doing vegetation control. That work continued this week on Highways 236 and 9. We just want to thank the commissioners and the traveling public for your continued patience as we continue this important wildfire fuel reduction work. But as a reminder, when drivers see our Caltrans crews and contractors on the highway flashing orange lights or maintenance equipment, please slow down, move over, and stay alert. We appreciate the public driving safely along our highways so that everyone can make it home. And then I did want to make a comment on the speed limit study. So in the summer of 2024, Caltrans District 5 received a letter from the commissioners regarding consideration of speed limits on Highway 9. As a follow-up, we sent a letter that said that we were going to prioritize and do the studies necessary to look at the speed limits. Today, I do want to provide an update, and it's also in your board packet. The letter indicates that we're making recommendations at 9 locations along Highway 9, as well as 1 location on Highway 17. We provided the letter to the RTC. I believe it's on page 384 of your agenda packet. So I know it's buried, but I would definitely want to point that out. Overall speed limits on Highway 9 are either staying the same or just decreasing. The next steps before the draft speed limit recommendations become final is that the City of Santa Cruz and the County of Santa Cruz are going to be notified. The city has already received their notification, and the county's notification should be sent next week. Part of that notification process is that the city and the county can host a public hearing. If they do host a public hearing and we collect comments as part of that, we will consider those comments in that setting. Caltrans ourselves will not host a public hearing. That's at the discretion of the city and the county. So if you want more information, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to explain. And that concludes my report for today.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions? See none. Anybody from the public?
Yes, Jim Helmer. We are underway with a rural highway safety audit, which mentioned Highway 9 as one of those, as well as the other 5. And to me, it's interesting that we are in the midst of looking at ways to improve safety, and that is ongoing right now. Yet on Highway 9, in the 2 towns of Brookdale and a portion of Felton, we're utilizing past practice prior to AB 43's passage, and they would qualify for reduction to 25. So I think we might want to consider the rural highway safety audit before we take any actions on public hearings. And I think the Highway 17 issue is a very serious one.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? I don't see anybody, so
We have a online.
online.
Lowell Hurst.
Low.
Yes, thank you. I always want to thank Caltrans for all their good work, but particularly their focus on Highway 152 and 129 and Highway 1, which also bisects the city of Watsonville. And so our interface and our interactions with Caltrans are pretty positive, and let's keep up the good momentum there. And thank you, Caltrans, for your work in South County, Santa Cruz.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to move on to.
I would like to ask Caltrans representative a question, if I could. It's been brought up that the speed limit on Highway 17 has been proposed to increase from 55 to 60 in that one area, and a concern about safety there. Could you explain the rationale if that is indeed the case?
Yeah, so currently on the southbound side, it's 55. And so we're proposing that it goes to 60. And then on the northbound side, it's 65, and we're proposing that it decreases to 60. And so that was, they did their engineering analysis and felt that they wanted to have the same speeds on both sides of the highway. And they felt that that was an appropriate speed limit for both sides. I could get more information for you on the details of that engineering analysis and what that rationale was. But that was what we decided to do. So increasing from 55 to 60 on the southbound side, and then decreasing on the northbound side from 65 to 60.
Yeah, I hear that, having driven that, as I'm sure most of us have many times. Getting onto Highway 17 going over the hill, you're going rather slow. People coming up from Santa Cruz are going rather slow. On the other side, coming down, people are used to really, going down the hill and zipping along. And I think, as Mr. Helmus pointed out, merging onto the fishhook is a little bit on the, it's been improved greatly because of some Caltrans projects, but it is it's still a little bit nerve-wracking. So I would appreciate getting more information. If it's simply to have them both the same on the same side, that doesn't seem like a very justifiable explanation.
Yeah, and I'll get more information for you guys on that.
Since I have the floor, I'm also going to correct something I said about segment 7. I don't want to give the impression that people should go while while the workers are out there, because during the week they're still out there. On Sunday, which is when I walk, they're not. And so certainly interfering with the workers while they're completing the project is not a good idea. And they don't, legally we shouldn't even be out there on the weekend when they're not there. But it's hard to resist.
Let's wait till the ribbon cutting for them, for the public's sake.
Chair, may I also ask a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to Caltrans. Can you please further explain the next steps needed regarding the speed limit study along Highway 9? It sounds like the county needs to post a public hearing, that you won't be posting that. What would be the next steps on behalf of the county to get Caltrans to follow through with that change?
So one of the things that you're not required as a county or a city to actually host a public hearing, but you can. So that's at your discretion. That will be, your boards will have to determine whether that's something you would want to do. We will make ourselves available to be at those meetings, as well as consideration of all of your comments and concerns from the public. And so if you want to do something like that, we are available. One thing we did do earlier last month was we went to your interregional, your TAC meeting, and we presented there. And so many of your public works directors, planning directors have already seen kind of the overall analysis that was done. And so that same presentation is available to you, as well as we would make it available if you hosted a public hearing.
And then what would be the next step as far as, what can the public expect for a change in the speed limit, as far as timeline or anything like that?
I think that we will start working on changing it once we hear back from the city and the county that, and I can get more about the specific timeline, but my understanding is we have to give you the opportunity to host the public hearing. If you want to do that, we'll gather your comments, take that into consideration. We'll finalize that with both the city and the county, and then we'll start moving towards changing the signs out. So it could be several months before we see that happen. It really depends on whether or not the city and county want to host a public hearing. If you decide not to, then we would just proceed forward with changing out the signs.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for all of your work on that. It is very important to residents along Highway 9 to see this speed limit reduced.
And when you get your letter, a lot of that process will be outlined in your letter.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more comment about Highway 17 on the downhill side. To add what Commissioner Schifrin said, it's not just that it's coming downhill. We have a lot of people from out of town coming downhill, and they're approaching, that interchange with Highway 1 and the fish hook. So there's a lot going on there, and I'd really like you to look at that as well, because speed there is tough, and there's a lot of decisions people are making when they come down the hill. And if you look at the going uphill side, it's a little bit different scenario.
Okay. Yeah, we'll certainly bring that back.
Chair, if I would just add my comments to that too, I would support Commissioner Downing, Commissioner Schifrin's request for more information on that. It seems counterintuitive that on the uphill side, where braking distances are decreased, meaning you can stop faster, that we would decrease the speed, versus on the downhill side, where it takes longer to brake, we're making a decision to increase the speed. Having investigated traffic accidents in that area in my previous career, I have significant concerns about any kind of a speed limit raise there. So I would support that as well.
If I could make a comment too, I'd like to chime in on this issue. I was the director of clinical grief services for Hospice Santa Cruz, and a few years ago, there's been several accidents there on the downhill side of 17, and a young woman was killed, and my staff had to go into the Palo Alto Medical Foundation to the offices there to provide grief support to the greater staff of employees that worked with this person. This is a very dangerous stretch. It is downhill. People go very fast. There's a stoplight there. The traffic often backs up for a long way, like a mile probably, or half a mile or something. So I would not be in favor of increasing the speed limit in that section. Thank you.
What I just gathered is that the county and the cities are going to get their opportunity when they get, the notice from Caltrans. So hopefully you can bring that up at the county level and make some appropriate changes if desired. Moving on to the next item. 28 is a public hearing about 2025 unmet transit and paratransit needs and presentations by the Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District, Community Bridges, and Volunteer Center staff.
All right, whenever the presentation is up, I'll go ahead and start. All right. Well, good morning, commissioners. My name is Amanda Marino. I'm a transportation planner of your staff.
Hi, good morning. Sierra Top, transportation planning technician.
And today for your consideration is the 2025 unmet transit and paratransit needs list. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this presentation will take about 20 minutes, and we will discuss the background of the creation of the list, updates that have been made, the RTC's outreach strategy, an overview of the survey results and community responses, a verbal update from Transportation Development Act recipients, and we'll be closing with a public hearing. I'll give a second before we can go to the next. Yeah, that's good. So to provide some background, the state allocates a 4th cent share of the state's 7.25 cent sales tax to the region, according to the Transportation Development Act. The RTC allocates these funds according to formula as adopted in the RTC rules and regulations. TDA funding is apportioned to Santa Cruz Metro, Community Bridges, the Volunteer Center, as well as local jurisdictions for bicycle and pedestrian projects. You can go to the next slide. TDA statutes require transportation planning agencies that use TDA funds for local streets and road projects to implement a public process, including a public hearing, to identify unmet transit needs of transit-dependent or disadvantaged individuals and determine if unmet transit needs can be reasonably met. Although the RTC does not allocate TDA funds to local streets and road projects, and therefore is not required to perform this analysis, the RTC solicits regular input on unmet transit needs to provide a useful tool to assess and prioritize needs in the region for transit funding opportunities. Serving as the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council per TDA statutes, the Elderly and Disabled Transportation Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the E&D TAC, frequently hears and considers unmet transit and paratransit needs in the county. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So at the RTC's May 2023 meeting, the RTC approved the 2023 unmet transit and paratransit needs list and provided several insightful comments. Commissioners noted that many high priority needs might already be in progress. They emphasized that the list should not only be aspirational, but also track progress to effectively assess the extent to which the unmet transit needs are being addressed. Go to the next slide. RTC staff, with the input of the E&D TAC, collected additional data and restructured the list to reflect the commissioner's feedback. The 2025 list now includes a weighted scoring system, a section identifying opportunities to address the unmet transit needs, and an agency status update section. This identifies ongoing and completed projects throughout the county.
By adding the agency status updates section, we can now see where progress is being made to address each unmet need. This information will aid in removing items from the list as they are addressed or completed and will be tracked annually by staff. And now my colleague Sierra will outline our outreach efforts and scoring system in more detail.
Thank you. We can go to the next slide, please. All right, so in addition to commissioner feedback, community engagement is really crucial to this process. So in 2025, we released a digital survey in both English and Spanish that people could fill out. We distributed flyers around North and South County at senior centers, community centers, our public libraries, and different local businesses. We also sent emails to around 50 different stakeholders, asking them to distribute the list. We also sent emails to our listserv, which reaches around 2,500 people. We attended events and meetings, including the Santa Cruz and Watsonville Farmers Market, some RTC committees, the Equity Work Group, and Dignity Health's Life on Wheels group. And then we received input from transit providers. So with all of that, it was really helpful in filling out the new list, and we received around 100 responses that we could incorporate. Next slide, please. And with those responses, they were pretty consistent with previous years. So there's a need for more frequent transit, reaching more destinations, and people want it to be reliable and convenient. There is also a need for enhanced regional connections to different counties and agencies, and then connections to recreational opportunities. New responses that we put into the list, we got a lot of feedback on right-of-way design and hazards like construction blocking the sidewalks and making it hard to access transit, more transit amenities like lighting and bus shelters, and then multilingual resources and wayfinding. There was also some concern around qualifications around paratransit and priority seating being full on buses, bike racks being full on buses, and then a need for a new metro accessibility coordinator and potentially some more ADA trainings. And then we did receive a lot more feedback around passenger rail opportunities and really building out the trail for more access. So with this, we're seeing that first and last mile access to transit is really important, and there's more opportunities to build confidence and help riders feel safer using our transit systems. Next slide, please. So going back to the scoring system that we added into the list, our outreach efforts helped inform this as well. So we first began working with E&D TAC to identify criteria and the weighted scores for the list. And that was built off of the regional transportation plans, goals, policies, and targets, as well as the previous list. And then in the survey, we included a question asking what should be the highest priority for transit and paratransit funding in Santa Cruz County. And we aligned it with that criteria, and it was really in line with what E&D TAC decided. We adjusted it slightly to reflect community input. Next slide, please. So that score will result in a final score of 1 to 5, and that determines high, medium, or low priority. And that's not meant to devalue other opportunity areas in the list, but it gives us a framework and starting point to really look at the highest priorities in the community for transit. In summary, those results that ended with high priority areas are really around more equitable access, service expansion, affordability, efficiency, and better information and outreach. And again, that is really in line with the responses we received in the survey and what we've been hearing. All right, next slide, please. And to end our part of the presentation, we wanted to end on some successes that have been accomplished. So this list here is really We're seeing some improvement in increase in service, safer access to transit, enhanced transit stops and facilities, and additional paratransit rides. All right, so now we can go to the next slide just to end it. We'll have our TDA recipients give a brief overview of the projects they've been working on to address unmet needs. We'll start with Metro, then go to Community Bridges, and end with the Volunteer Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Metro.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Ergo, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer for Santa Cruz Metro. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this item, and thanks to our TC staff and the committees for leading the development and outreach around this process. Metro pays close attention to the unmet transit needs list as a living document of community priorities and gaps identified in the transportation network. And while it is mostly an unfunded project list, we use it frequently as a tool for setting priorities when pursuing grant funding, whether local, state, or federal. Over the past 2 years, Metro has advanced a number of projects on the addressing priorities on the list and pursued grant funding for others. And I just want to highlight a few things in particular. In 2024, Metro began implementation of Reimagine Metro following a 15-month planning and outreach process to re-envision where buses go and how often they should run. The service changes seek to address many of the needs identified on the unmet transit needs list, including increased frequency, including the reintroduction of service that runs every 15 minutes on key corridors, increased evening and weekend service, in many cases on routes where service on weekends now matches service on weekdays, improved service to areas with high concentrations of seniors, disabled, and low-income individuals, increased frequency on routes serving UCSC and Cabrillo College, increased service on Highway 17, including a newly realigned schedule to match Caltrain's new electric train schedule, and increased service to tourist destinations, such as our partnership with the reopening of Big Basin State Park. All told, the Reimagine Metro service increase resulted in a 30% increase above pre-COVID service levels, and ridership has increased 22%. I do want to remind everyone, though, that this service increase was made possible through a one-time infusion of state funds through the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program formula funding that will run out at the end of 2026, which is one reason that Metro is exploring. You have a call from. Excuse me. Is exploring putting a measure on the ballot in 26. On the transit capital side, in 2024, we completed our rapid corridor study, which seeks to address some of the needs around speed and reliability. This was funded through a Caltrans Sustainable Planning Grant, and it recommends a set of strategies to improve the passenger waiting experience and speed and reliability on major corridors connecting Watsonville and Santa Cruz. We use that study to successfully apply for funding to purchase new bus shelters, install real-time signage, and make other bus stop improvements on a portion of stops on Soquel in the county and on Main Street in Watsonville. And we are seeking funding to implement the rest of the project in partnership with RTC and the cities of Santa Cruz and Watsonville. We also recently completed the installation of 30 new bus shelters, including lighting, expanded waiting areas, and 30 new Big Belly trash cans throughout the county, funded through a Caltrans Clean California grant. And we continue to work on our transit station upgrades. Pacific Station currently under construction with 125 affordable housing units and a new transit center. And we're in the beginning stages of planning the redevelopment of our Watsonville Transit Center, which will include 80 new affordable housing units and a new transit center. And both stations will include expanded bike parking through a bike hub and seek to incentivize housing near transit. Finally, we continue to explore ways to remove barriers for low-income individuals to access our system. Metro has long had reduced fare programs for low-income individuals and people with disabilities. But 2 years ago, we launched Youth Cruz Free, which removes the fare for youth under 18 And this has resulted in nearly a 200% increase in youth ridership across our system. So again, I want to thank the opportunity for speaking to this item, and I'd be happy to take any questions at the end.
Thank you. That's Community Bridges.
Good morning, Commission. Ray Cancino, CEO of Community Bridges, and we're going to tag team this a little bit. I'm going to make you speak too. We're Liftline. We're the Consolidated Transportation Service Agency, and we operate paratransit just for the new members. So what the services that are mandated by federal only go basically where the bus stop is and 1 quarter beyond that. So if you're beyond that and you're a person with disability, and you need paratransit, you have to call basically us. We're the only provider outside of some provisions with Volunteer Center. But we basically provide the primary transportation in and out of county for those individuals and residents. On average, we last year provided 41,765 rides. So in terms of our year-over-year growth, we've seen an 8% increase year-over-year. So I'll just kind of frame it out from the high level. We are basically at a equilibrium point, meaning that we're a little bit on the deficit side this year, but we're providing more rides every single year. We also know that a lot of our funding through the partnership with RTC is also contingent on things that we know are declining in many respects, sometimes sales tax as a result of things around us, sometimes gas tax, which we know is going to be in one direction as we convert into EV. And so we are basically tracking this, but the work of this committee and the work of our community and the work of the RTC is to basically provide as much service as we could afford and as we can continue to provide. And we've been able to do that significantly in addressing some of these unmet paratransit needs. And we've been able to also recently become I think the most important thing to highlight is something of a new service, which is the TNC. It comes from the CPUC. Basically, they charge Ubers and Lyfts because they don't have accessible vehicles, a certain percentage. That goes to CPUC, gets provided to you as a committee, and then you contract that service out or you RFP it out. We won that RFP, and we've been continuing to grow that opportunity. That is a small commitment, $5 per ride, but it allows people that don't qualify, income qualify, or age qualify under our existing criteria for those other rides to still have public access. And so it's been a great opportunity to grow and to provide that service that was unmet previously as a result of some of the work that you all did and some of the work that happened at the statewide level. So I'll let our program director from Liftline speak to a little bit more about what Liftline does.
Good morning, everyone. Jesus Bujorquez, Program Director of Community Region Liftline. And I would like to highlight some of the programs that we offer to alleviate some of the unmet needs that we have. So as Ray said, we offer the free medical ride program. That is a ride program that basically is offered to seniors and people with disability, low-income seniors, people with disability. The rides are free. They're all over the county. They can go from the northern part of the county to the southern part of the county. They don't get a charge. We also have the out-of-county service. So we have a dedicated driver that he takes people from Santa Cruz County and goes to regions out of county, like San Jose, Santa Clara, San Francisco, and Monterey. That way people can go to specialized medical treatments over the county. As Ray said, we also have the TNC Access for All program. So basically, that program allows us to provide the same service of rides to people that don't qualify under the limits or the financial. I mean, if they don't qualify financially, they will be able to still call and ride a ride. Also, under that program, we launched it. We have a mobile app, so people can reserve a ride at any time using the mobile phones. And along with that, they can also provide. We also have a same-day ride program, so people can schedule a ride in 24 hours or even an hour before the scheduled appointment. They can also use the program through the mobile app that we have. Okay, so this is a brief review of resume of programs that we had, and I'm open to any questions you have. So.
Thank you. And the Volunteer Center.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tara Ireland. I'm the Empowered Aging Director at the Volunteer Center. Thank you to the Commission, the RTC staff, for giving us this opportunity to present to you. Our transportation program has been in existence for over 25 years, really providing support to the most vulnerable members of our community, those who have disabilities and low-income individuals that are seeking rides. Many of the folks that we serve are referred to us by medical staff, social workers, as they're perhaps unable to take regular transportation or have a fear of getting on vans or buses, or they also may live in extreme rural parts of our county that aren't accessible by buses or vans. So our volunteers, the heart of our program, are willing to drive these individuals from our rural mountainous areas down to their medical appointments, to shop, or to run errands or access educational programs like fall prevention programs that allow them to remain as active members of our community. One thing I did want to highlight is that we also support the caregivers that are helping these low-income elderly individuals by assisting them with the elderly person to their medical or appointments. We, during COVID, had started a grocery shopper program, which we continue to this day for those that are medically compromised or who fall ill and aren't able to leave their homes. Volunteers continue to shop for them or get medications if necessary. I want to highlight too, our volunteers not only pick up individuals and get them to where they need to go. Also, sometimes it's really a door-through-door activity because they're supporting the individual, might even put groceries away for them. So we are so thankful to live in this community and have this program here as our volunteers really do make a difference and support these individuals. Volunteers sometimes are also some of the only people these seniors and persons with disabilities might interact with on a weekly or biweekly basis. This past year, we received some funding through 5310 grant to expand our service. As we know, many folks need to get places on the weekends. Also to recruit more volunteer drivers so that people can get to other activities besides just medical and grocery shopping. We want to support people's social health and help them to get out if they seek to go to a class or something that supports their well-being and connectivity with others. And I think that's it. Happy to take any questions that you might have about our program.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do you have any commissioner questions?
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner
Like I said, it's hard. Now I can see. Go ahead.
I don't have any questions for the presenters. I want to thank the presentation. It's always really helpful to hear about the community need and also encouraging to see the work that's happening to serve those who are most vulnerable. I was really happy to see under transit services, increased frequency and span of transit services, that it was highlighted that we need further stops along Highway 9, South Highway, or South Felton, along Lompico and up in that area. There used to be routes in that area that were cut. I do serve on the Metro Board, and I will be starting to advocate for that because we have a lot of folks who live in the San Lorenzo Valley who depend on those routes and would love to see further expansion. So I'm not surprised that that was highlighted in here, and I'm glad to see it. And I look forward to partnering with anybody necessary to see those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Any
I
other
have
commissioners?
I have a question and a comment. This is regarding the infrastructure projects that we're putting together. In the last committee meeting for the elderly and disabled, there were a lot of comments about once a project is complete, that those who have to use it run into like little things that we who are walking and not in a wheelchair or blind or whatever, they experience that, and it's big for them, even though it's little for us. So my question is, do we do a test run with these folks before we accept the project from the construction companies? Is there a mechanism in place to review that, or do you just put it out there and then correct it as the concerns arise?
I could take a shot at giving a general answer of how construction projects typically work. So the design of projects are compliant with ADA, right? So that's really the whole intent, I think, that you're getting at. And, you know, as part of the construction administration, when a project is complete, there is a process to kind of close out the construction contract by accepting the improvements from the contractor. And so any kind of issues related to ADA would likely be caught by that. However, if it's something that isn't necessarily an ADA issue, I hear your concern, and I'm not sure there is a solution in place at this time to address it.
Yeah, I think there were just comments like, well, they finished this project, but when I went out there, the thing that used to work doesn't work. So I realized what you said, things close out and you finish. So it would be nice to have a way sort of to follow up with those that are impacted by that too.
We have, RTC has a hazard report process that should be utilized, and then our Director of Planning, Programming, and Transportation Services, Luis Mendez, has something to add. Thank you, Luis.
Actually, I was going to mention the hazard report that you mentioned. So yes, New York State for a long time had a hazard report process where people can, whether they're on bicycles or whether they're a pedestrian or in wheelchairs and so on, people can submit a hazard report of areas whether it's new construction or whether it's something that's been in place for before or something that changed. Sometimes all of a sudden the signal light doesn't work as well as it was supposed to be or something happened and it's necessary to let someone know. So we get those hazard reports and we work with the cities and with the county, provide that information to them. And then our committees, our bicycle committee and our elderly and disabled transportation advisory committee, get a report of all of that, and we can go over that with them, and so they can know whether there was some follow up to those reports and so on. So.
Yeah, as a frequent user of the report and also referrals to other people to use the report, it's really useful. It's just always worked really well. I don't know how we're communicating that because we say it's there, but maybe with, say, our elderly and disabled committee. I only attended one meeting, so I don't know, but it would be, I think you just have to keep reminding people of this in places where you wouldn't think, because those are the folks that they don't have time to attend meetings and go on our website.
Yeah, we typically bring, we have out like different cards that we bring around with a QR code and the website to provide information to to fill out those pedestrian hazard reports and bicycle hazard reports. We typically bring those to every RTC outreach meeting, and then we have that on our website. But yes, we also encourage, we try to get more individuals to come to our E&D TAC meetings, but understand that it's hard for people, the public, to always attend those. I did want to mention that we do also encourage local jurisdictions to come in the design phases of projects, and the committee has that opportunity to provide their comments before it goes into the construction phase.
Do you also get information from the county's app where people are reporting? Because there's a little bit of overlap there.
So how our process works is that anywhere in our county, they can provide that hazard report, and they say, oh, it doesn't matter where you are, what jurisdiction that it is, and then we send that directly to the staff person, either at the county or the different city.
Save reports from the county app, because do those, if somebody's reporting something that's clearly something that would go in the hazard report, but it's being reported in a different way.
We don't receive them, straight from the county, but they receive our hazard reports. But we could collaborate more with the county to see if we can also receive that to make it publicly available for the E&D TAC to review as well.
Great, thank you for your help.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to move to the public. Would like the public to end this item at the agenda.
Good morning. Sorry about that. I'm here representing Friends of the Rail and Trail. We want to just reaffirm the importance of this work. It serves the people who don't have the ability to the access to vehicles for their travel, and that developing connections between our county and neighboring counties, the Highway 17 Express, is critical, and it's challenging sometimes given the limited capacity for bicycles on that for leg trips. So anything that people continue to do on that would be appreciated. Finally, I want to say that the rail offers a real operation to link bicycle and trail and transit. Thank you.
Thank you.
For a public hearing comment session, Brian Peoples with Trail Now. You know, this is important. However, when the public sees Metro and RTC board members claiming they're going to have $1 billion train, the public doesn't respond to this kind of engagement. You know, we've actually told Metro that if we're still debating this train debate and not rail banking, we're going to be a political action committee against the Metro tax measure. So that's how serious we are. And so we're asking you to be more realistic. You know, you come in, you say you need money for transit, but at the same time, we have a board member writing letters in the local paper how we're going to have a multi-billion-dollar train. Don't worry, that doesn't even meet the Coastal Commission requirements. And what the real issue is we're building a boondoggle trail, an expensive trail, and the trail's embarrassing. Segment 7B is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. So we're asking you to do a little more pro-planning and bring this back to 2 minutes. This is ridiculous. A public meeting, you're doing 1 minute. Over.
Thank you.
Lowell Hurst.
Thank you very much. I want to express my appreciation as a senior citizen and a member of the elderly committee, the elderly community, to Metro and Community Bridges and the Volunteer Center for their focus on this. And I'm glad that RTC is helping coordinate the meeting the unmet needs of folks with vision and mobility issues. You know, I was on the area agency on aging for many years. In fact, I aged off of that committee, and the need increases. there's more senior citizens all the time that need some help in getting to the grocery store, getting to the doctor's office, getting to even social events. And so this issue is not going away. DMV, there's many people that are not going to be able to pass the DMV vision test as they get older. And that's a great big impediment that needs to be addressed. So I want to thank you for the opportunity here to focus in on those with vision and mobility issues. And clearly there's a bunch of people who are driving now that probably shouldn't be driving, that if they had a little more assistance, it might be safer on the roads and elsewhere for all the rest of us. And by the way, we can't see the timer on the remote screen. So
Anybody else online?
Kevin McGuire.
Yes, hello. So if you look at the current Metro ridership, it's about 11 to 15,000 a day with about 68% of those students. So Metro is only serving about 2% of the population. The Cruz is really good getting people from point A to point B without all these extra hops. A lot of the train stations are not going to have parking or be feasible for people with disabilities like my mother or father to be able to walk a half a mile or a mile to get there. We need to address the problem with the shortage of drivers and how do we increase the service. We're using about 5 or 10% of available daily capacity of Metro. I mean, that's terrible. So what's the problem? We don't have drivers. We don't have enough routes. We don't have enough headways. How do we solve that? There's no really any bus stops in Capitola. So a train ain't going to solve that problem. We need to really invest in the Metro, invest into on-demand services. I like the Cruz and getting people from their house to the grocery store as easy as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie Faulkner.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for your service. 20 to 30% of our community's seniors and many with disabilities absolutely rely on public transit. It currently takes my friend who is blind 2.5 hours to go one way from her home near Busy Mission Street to her medical appointments in Capitola. Our community needs increased bus service, rail, and well-designed trails that access key community centers. The work of RTC must prioritize equitable access to all community members in enjoying our beautiful coastline and access to villages, beaches, shopping, and appointments. It is shameful that recently a group of loud residents, not all who live in Capitola, used and continue to use bullying tactics to stop equitable access to and through Capitola Village for our disabled community members by opposing superior alignment access through the village and along Park Avenue. They are also trying to stop future rail access under the misguided goal of rail banking, which would devastate equitable access to many beautiful places not accessible by bus in our county. We must continue to move forward per the requirements of the California Transportation Commission.
We have no other speakers.
With that, we're going to go on to 29, which is the Highway 140.
There are a couple of recommendations that we should act on. The recommendations are to adopt the 2025 unmet transit and paratransit needs list with revisions as appropriate and consider transit and paratransit, which we have done. So I would move the staff recommendation on this item.
Second. So I got a first and a second for, can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alternate Newsom? Aye. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig? Aye. Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to 29, which is the Highway 141st Avenue to Soquel Drive auxiliary lanes and bus on shoulder project. Staff report.
morning, Chair Montesino, Commissioners. My name is Brian Zamora, your staff, and alongside me are Madeline Jacobson and Tim Lang from Caltrans. And today we are here to address the cost overruns of the Highway 1 Auxiliary Lane and Bus on Shoulder project and the need for additional funding to close out the project. This project enhances traffic flow, public transit, and bicycle and pedestrian access along a highway between SoCal Drive and 41st Avenue. This project is fully funded by Measure D funds, and the RTC is responsible for covering any cost overruns incurred during the project. At the last meeting, we were here to request an additional $1 million in funds in order to keep the project on track and prevent any future delays. And at that meeting, staff acknowledged that there was an estimated $1.749 million needed to close out the project. As of this last meeting, that number slightly rose to $1.894 million due to pending change orders needing to be finalized. The project is expected to be finalized in summer of 2025, and these funds are crucial to meet that goal. The staff recommendation is staff recommend adopting the resolution authorizing the executive director to execute amendments to the construction cooperative agreement with Caltrans for a total value not to exceed $1.894 million for the construction capital component of the project, programming an additional $1.894 million of Measure D highway corridor funds in the fiscal year 2024 to 2025, and amending the budget accordingly. Caltrans is now going to give a short presentation to go further into the details of those cost overruns and the remaining need for the budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Madeline Jacobson, presenting to you again this month as the project manager for the 41st to SoCal Avenue projects. And alongside me, more to support the Q&A, is Tim Lang. Tim?
Good morning. Tim Lang, District 5 Construction Office Chief.
And this morning, we are bringing the follow-up item that we presented back in April. Next slide. So this morning's item will cover the construction progress and the ongoing remaining work to date since we last met. We will also conclude with a summary of the project's overall funding needs and our commitment to completing this job. And featured in the presentation are some images from recent drone video footage of the corridor. To date, as through the end of April, so yesterday, construction progress is about 95% complete. Since we last spoke with you, the striping and rumble strip work has been completed in the corridor, and that includes the red paint markings that you see as you drive through the corridor. And much of the work remaining ahead of us remains the same from when we spoke last month. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead on my notes. Next slide, please. So construction progress, here is a picture from December of 2023 where you can see the beginnings of those bridge pilings in the ground. And there is a recent picture from the drone flyover where you can see the open auxiliary lane, so the third lane on each side, serving as the aux lane, as well as the bridge structure and the wheel cutouts. Here's a couple other additional pictures from the drone imagery taken in April. And so you can see that auxiliary lane that I just mentioned between the interchanges and the red paint markings a bit more clearly here. So this is where I jumped ahead to. So the remaining work ahead of us largely remains the same as when we spoke last month. It includes installation of the permanent signs, some pavement work near SoCal Avenue, the irrigation and planting work along the southbound side of the corridor, completing the pedestrian overcrossing, including installing the lights that we've now received and installing the signs, as well as remaining change order work and completing the final project punch list. Next slide. So I'll now cover a summary of the construction capital funding needs. The balance presented to you in April was the $2,748,594.24. The Commission authorized the project $1 million in measure funds, leaving a remaining balance of about $1.7 million. Between the April staff report development and the May item, there's been some estimate refinement as change orders are being executed. Additionally, this covers the results of a partial project walkthrough that was completed. And that walkthrough was an important action to complete our effort towards contract acceptance. These two items combine to an additional $405,000.76. I will note that we've been working really close with RTC staff to address their questions and discuss this modification to the estimate prior to bringing it forward to you. In conclusion, the total funding request for the balance needed is $1.894 million. Moving forward, we aim to continue our close coordination with RTC, Granite, and all the project partners to complete this project on schedule and a little bit earlier than originally expected. We remain focused to completing the contract and change order work and resolving all of the outstanding issues and potential claims. If all funding is secured as presented, we expect completion in early summer of this year and look forward to the ribbon cutting at the end of July. And I'll conclude recapping the project successes that we talked about last meeting. And so we are looking to complete the project on schedule. Our team continues our effort towards project partnering with Granite, and we will continue to hold an additional partnering meeting this month and are hoping to compete and secure a partnering award at the conclusion of construction. And that covers the successful project collaboration between Granite, Caltrans, RTC, Mark Thomas as the designers, and the county. Additionally, our team, referenced last month as well, has creatively avoided nearly $4 million in potential conflicts or claims. But we've remained committed to the completion of the project, and our contractor has continued to maintain the flexibility throughout the overall project construction. So with that, we'll go to our final slide, which is thank you for your time and attention to this important matter, and Tim and I are here to help answer any of your questions.
So can I get commissioner questions?
Yeah, Chair, I have some questions for our Caltrans staff here. First of all, as I reiterated in our last meeting, I have general heartburn over this idea of cost overruns and what is seemingly a cavalier attitude about cost overruns. If memory serves me correct, there was work done on this Highway 1 corridor prior to the initiation of this project, right? There was Caltrans work that was done in the SoCal area. I'm wondering if any of that previous work contributed to these change orders that are necessary here that are causing these costs to increase, and why perhaps the two projects weren't coordinated better to avoid that.
I can't necessarily answer that question. I wasn't involved with the prior construction project or development of this project. Perhaps RTC and their design may have some insight to that.
Yes, you are correct, Commissioner Clark. There was a shop project that occurred prior to the construction of this project that changed the site condition quite a bit and resulted in many of the change orders that you see today.
So I guess my comment on that is going forward, how do we avoid that? It's a comment and a question, I guess, all wrapped in one.
Yes, and in this effort with these projects moving forward, we have significant lessons learned with this being the first one in this series. So we've taken those forward with RTC and their designer in addressing those throughout the design reviews. So yes, there should be significantly less change orders in the number. Conditions, outside of that may still have some other issues that come up during construction that we may have to deal with.
And then just one more question, if you'll all indulge me. When I'm looking at the list of the change orders and the reasons for these cost overruns, I see items like unsuitable material or median tie-ins. These seem to me like things that perhaps should have been noticed at the onset. And here's a large part of my concern with cost overruns, is I feel like we don't give the public who's paying the bill on this, we don't give them an honest assessment of what this project's really going to cost. And I think that we're beginning to fatigue their patience on some of these things. And so we as commissioners are responsible to that, and we're responsible to those dollars, and we're responsible to give the public an accurate, or as accurate as possible, estimate on what these things are going to cost, especially as we're moving forward with some of these more ambitious projects. So that said, is there some reason that we don't identify these things earlier on so that we can give a more true, more accurate cost estimate of these things? And forgive my ignorance in not knowing this. I'm not well versed in highway construction, but maybe you can just help educate me on this so I can understand it better.
Certainly. So some of these change orders that you're referring to say unsuitable material. That typically isn't identified until the excavation actually happens. This is really based on conditions of the ground at the time the contractor begins work. So it's very difficult to anticipate that up front. We try when we assess, when just before the work begins or, the project begins, but that's a condition that's very hard to estimate.
Well, let me just say thank you. I appreciate your time and your commitment to this and your ability to answer the questions and willingness to do that. Some of these things are not your fault. They're just questions that I have that I feel responsible to our constituents for. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other commissioners' questions?
Chair, just a brief comment. Thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate that sort of the thoroughness of your reporting to this commission has increased with each of the additional asks, even though I'm not thrilled that they've kept coming. I am grateful that the project is being completed ahead of schedule and look forward to the ribbon cutting in July. And we'll be supporting the motion today, especially given that it's an up to amount and that we are going to have thorough accounting and receipts for all of the additional expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'll move on to the public. Would the public like to weigh on this item of the agenda?
Brian, trail now. So I guess my question, I think I read that the Caltrans requires a 5% contingency, is what I read. And so that's unusual, I think, for having been a facilities manager and doing building construction, we wouldn't do 5%. So my question is do they do that because they're really accurate and really good at construction work, which evidently so far they're not, and I'm not trying to give them a hard time, or do they do it so that the local jurisdiction will have to pay for the overruns? That's, generally, I think it's either one of those two things. It would be interesting to know. I think it would be smart for them to have the 5% so the local jurisdiction would pay the overruns. That makes sense. And I'm hopeful that they have a low contingency value because they're so good. So that would be my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Anybody online?
Lower Hurst.
Thank you again for the opportunity to comment. I did slow roll through that area yesterday on my return to Watsonville, and as we creeped along, I tried to take note of what was happening, and it is a very impressive project. And impressive projects do cost a lot of money, and it's pretty hard for the commissioners in the cost estimate, and hard to predict the inflationary when it's an inflationary environment, which we've experienced. Soil conditions are sometimes surprising, and weather too. You know, the price of steel, rock, cement, lumber, and asphalt, they generally don't go down a lot, and they usually go up. Hey, and workers, they want to keep up with inflation as well. So the issues of supply and demand and material availability and delays all point back to the fact that time is money, and that's hard to predict as well. So good luck to the commissioners. Thanks for an impressive project.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else. Do you have anybody else?
We do not.
No. So bring back to the commission.
I would move the staff recommendation. Let me just say I have a number of questions, but since there doesn't seem to be anything we can do about it, it doesn't seem worth taking commission time to try to understand why this all is the way it is. So I'll just make a motion to approve the staff recommendation, since there seems to be agreement between Caltrans and our technical staff.
I'll second that.
So it's been first and second. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alternate Newsom? Aye. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downey?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to our conference with the legal counsel items. And to be added 15 and 60 that were consent agenda also. So anybody from the public like to weigh on those items to the agenda?
So Chair Montesino will come back into open session following the closed session and then take up items 15 and 16.
15 and 16. So anybody from the public?
Yes.
Closed session right now.
Hi, it's Brian from Trail Now. We submitted some responses for the closed session on going into an agreement with Roaring Camp, essentially paying Roaring Camp to move the old railroad tracks. The inactive railroad tracks is a waste of tax dollars. It's a waste. And what I would be more concerned with is you're paying them to move the railroad tracks, so you may have a legal issue if we ever go and try to when we try to rail bank it, you went and committed, hey, yeah, Roaring Camp, you're going to be able to keep those tracks. So you're paying them with our tax dollars to move those tracks that nobody can use. They can't be used. It's a waste of tax dollars, but you're also possibly, most likely, creating more of a legal challenge when we start dealing with Roaring Camp on the rail banking process, because you're acknowledging, oh yeah, we got to keep those tracks there for Roaring Camp. But it's an inactive line, the trestle behind us, can't ride trains over it. So it's a waste of money, and we advocate not to approve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Krista Corwin of your staff, and just speaking on behalf of the core unit, SCIU 521 local. We appreciate your collaboration and urge your support for the tentative agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brianna Goodman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brianna Goodman of your staff and steward with SCIU Core, and I would like to echo Krista's statement. Core supports the tentative agreement between RTC and SCIU. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers online.
No other speakers. Saw someone standing.
Yes, someone is in person.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody, including
human beings of the public that one of the biggest reasons Warren Camp gets the contracts to move the rails is they're the only the only company in the county that does it, and we're trying to fund things, do things with our own local things, and also anything that would help Warren Camp is not, I do not feel, is a waste of taxpayer money. They bring in tourists that come into the county and they pay, get this, county taxes, including but not limited to Measure D, and they don't just spend them at Warren Camp. I can guarantee you anybody that comes from outside of this county into Warren Camp spends money at least one other place in the county before they're going home. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing, I think that is all. We're going to close it up and go into closed session.
Chair
So thank you.
Montesino, if I may just make one comment. We have the 3 items on closed session today. We have the conference with labor negotiators involving the RAM and core bargaining units. We have a conference with real property negotiators, and we have a conference with legal counsel related to anticipated litigation. I would just note if any commissioners are abstaining from any of these items in closed session, you should note that for the record now.
Do you have any abstentions?
Yes, for the closed item, the last closed item.
Yeah, the last two. This and Commissioner's potential conflict relates to a real property interest.
All right, well, thank you. I'll close that up and we're going to go into closed session.
Thank you.
And I think in Capitola, we sit our seats.
Russ.
Chair Montesino, commissioners, we're back in open session. There were no reportable actions from closed session, so we would be on to the 2 remaining items on the agenda right now, which are the 2 labor agreements.
I would move approval of the 2 labor agreements, items 15 and 16.
Second.
Okay.
Are there any public comments on that? I think we took them actually before we went into closed session. So.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alternate Newsom? Aye. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino? Okay, we'll come back to Commissioner Montesino. Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSarpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig? Aye. Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Montesino? Hello? He just sent us a message, so, okay. How do you vote on the item, Commissioner Montesino? We need your vote, Eduardo. Commissioner Montesino, can you hear us?
Commission, we have a majority vote. Commissioner Montesino, can you hear us at this time?
I don't think you can.
No, this computer's muted, but not the Zoom. Yeah. I think he has us on mute.
Yes, I am.
Have a vote. We're fine. We're fine. Yeah, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good.
So that passes unanimously?
Motion passes unanimously. We didn't get his vote. It was he just would report is not abstaining.
It was recorded. So
So that passed, but not by unanimous vote, yeah.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So we're adjourned. Since there's nothing else on the agenda, is that correct?
The meeting is adjourned.
Sure is incommunicado.
I am.